Hey, hello, this is Professor Game, where we interview successful practitioners of games, gamification, and game thinking who bring us the best of their experiences to get ideas, insights, and inspiration to help us in the process of getting students to learn what we teach. And I'm Rob Alvarez. I work at IE Business School Publishing, where we create interactive and engaging learning materials.
And today we have Ahmed Hossam. I hope I pronounced that right. I tried to ask Ahmed before to make sure that I pronounced it right, but did I get it right, Ahmed?
Yeah, it's cool, man. All great.
So Ahmed, are you prepared to engage?
Yeah, let's get it on, man.
Yeah, let's do this. So Ahmed, he is the International Gamification Confederation ambassador in Egypt from the Gamfed. He's also a keynote speaker, consultant, designer, and facilitator on gamification. He's currently the president of the Gamification Egypt and the founder of Gampact. He is one of the top pioneers in gamification in the Middle East, and he has been in the global Gamification Gurus Power since 2015. In July 2017, he was rated number 2 in that list, which is based in the United Kingdom. He has helped a variety of companies from seed stage startups to Fortune 500 companies such as HP, Oracle, Vodafone, AUC, Abudawood, and many more. He has been interested in the concept of gamification since 2005, even before the gamification boom. And after graduating from the University of Wales, he joined HP in 2010 and has worked there for many years. And he has served a lot of big customers like Vodafone Germany, Deloitte, and during this period, he traveled a lot of European and Middle Eastern countries doing amazing stuff. So, Ahmed, let's get started with the interview. A guy like you, we're always interested in knowing, what does a regular day with the gamification ambassador in Egypt look like? What does it look like for you?
That's a great question. Thank you, man. And thank you for your intro. Well, the regular day, which every day I wake up, I try to think about a new idea, a new way to how should I involve and empower my way of designing gamification in my projects. I use my very first early stages into improving my designing style and how can I make better impact in my projects so that I can get better results. And well, unlike a lot of people, they start with maybe sports. I like to start with innovation first.
Get your innovations.
Then after that, I can go some sporting. Yep, I love innovation, yeah. And so the day always starts this way, and moving on, I start working on what's next and how can I develop my projects, which I currently have. And as an ambassador of gamification now, try to be as helpful as I can for people here in the Middle East, because it's still a new trend in the Middle East, but it's growing very fast. So I try to help other people to understand more about gamification, either through groups, Facebook groups, or info sessions, meetups, and all this stuff.
That sounds fantastic. That sounds like it's actually a very exciting life, and I have to say that it looks very amazing. Being one of the pioneers in the Middle East, it's a very innovative of you to have started here. So the next question, and we would like to make a dramatic shift almost. And the next question is regarding, as we were talking about in Gamification Europe, and I have to, I'm not sure if I've quoted this before, but it's important to quote the people who said it first. And I heard this from Anne Coppins in Gamification Europe. To talk about fails, the first attempt in learning. So I would like to know, Ahmed, if you have any favorite fail, any occasion that you can say, well, this time this is something that I failed on, and then these are all the learnings I got, and then it actually led me to the future success that now I have in my practice of gamification. Can you tell us that story, Ahmed?
Yeah, sure. One of my early designs, it's one of actually my favorite case studies and lesson learned, which evolved so much how I think about gamification and gamification design. So early in my early stages, I started to work on a project of engagement, and in that project, we were trying to design gamification to empower employees and to get them more engaged in working and be more productive in the workplace. And as like many of the gamification designs, there was like a pointing system inside that game design. And when I designed that pointing system, I put the equation of the pointing system, and I give samples about how the pointing system should work. And then I delivered it to the administrator, who will administrate and manage the gamification inside the company. And I told them I want to be one of the players so that I can feel the experience which the players are having. And they agreed to that so that I can actually see what's happening and try to help as much as I can. After that, I had to leave and fly away. And it was like 1 week before they launched the system. And after launching before launching the system, they started to do like an event, a big event party. And they wanted the employees to feel that this event is something very valuable for them. And on their mind, they started to say, okay, the pointing system, we should use the pointing system for that event. And they tried to subtract the points as something the company did for the employees. And that was a huge epic decision, because they wanted like a little bit of feeling the employees that they owe the company for this event. That was really a bad decision at that time, and it resulted that the administrators sent the launching of the gamification system using a negative points. And for the first time in my entire life, I found receiving on my email a negative of negative 26,000 points.
Oof.
And I couldn't actually believe what's happening. And I told them, okay, that has to be a typo in the email. I didn't want to believe that they seriously did that. But unfortunately, I got a call from one of my friends who work in that company. And he told me, oh my God, what's happening? How is this empowering us? And I asked him, what's happening, man? And he told me, I received a negative 26,000 points for my starting of this gamification. Should I work my entire life to try to reach zero? And of course,
so the standard thing was to get minus 26,000. That sounds oof. Very enticing, no?
Yeah. Yep. And it was epic, and the results were very bad because they felt humiliated and they felt that the company does not appreciate their work. And the huge lesson learned here was, first, as a designer, you need to make sure that everything launched correctly on the onboarding. Don't leave anything for the administrator. This is the first thing. And the second thing was, no matter how your client and how great is your client, you shouldn't actually depend on his experience, because maybe there's something that he don't know or he thinks he know correctly and he don't. If you don't want the gamification design to blast off, you need to keep tracking until it officially launched correctly.
Oof. So stay on top of your design. That's what I would like to take away from your story, Ahmed, is actually when you design something and you are part of the implementation, because there's some designers, and I know big companies who say, well, what we do is we give you like the way it's going to work. We give you all the explanations, and the implementation is entirely up to you. And that's respectable. That's fine if that's your approach. If your approach is to participate, maybe in iterations, maybe in the implementation, well, actually participate. Make sure that if that's part of your promise and you're going to be there for them, well, actually be there for them, because some catastrophic things can happen, as Ahmed was describing. So thank you for that story, Ahmed. We really appreciate you sharing those tough moments that you had.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Those learnings, because there's always something to learn from the harsh times. And now, Ahmed, once again, we would like to take a 180 shift. And instead of talking about your biggest fail, we would like to talk about the biggest challenge that you faced and actually solved using gamification or game thinking or game design. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, so I think the biggest challenge which I have faced and solved using gamification was it was a course that needed to be delivered into one of the companies, and the course was very tough, and the content was really, really tough, and it used to be delivered, but the results always had to be very bad because people get very exhausted and very not reliable how much information they had from the course, and the results were always bad. And but this course for the company was very important, and the content was very important, and so we had to design a gamification experience for that course so that it can dramatically change the results and make it more fun, more engaging, and at the same time it achieved the learning objectives. And we've designed a gamification for the course, which was a fantasy world, and it ended up great. The results was amazing, and it made a huge impact on the team building inside the course. The people went booming about it. The way we used game design and game design thinking is we actually used more like team building activities and points and badges and a full game experience inside the course with a fantasy and story and a hero type story.
Okay.
And actually the people started to get engaged into that, and we made them like teleport between the fantasy world and the real world, and how they can reflect between what was happening in the fantasy world and then try to do it in the real world.
Okay, and how did you make that connection? How did you make sure that they were taking those learnings from the game that they were playing, and they brought it back into the actual daily work?
Okay, so the course was focused on the abilities and the strengths of the team, and inside the story we made it like it's the power of the team, and that each team has special powers, yeah, and they reflected on that with their real ability. We made something like a teleport card, and that teleport card which switched between the two worlds, and from one world to another they went from the fantasy world to the real world, and we started to make them realize that what we did in the fantasy world is actually what we need to do in the real world, in your work. And we started to make them exercises that reflect with the simulation they had in the fantasy world, and boom, the results was really great.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So the idea here was that what they were doing in the game had actually impact or consequences in the real world, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that sounds amazing. That's a key learning for anybody, especially the people that are like us in the education space, whether that is corporate education, whether that is the education that we do on schools, on universities, higher education. There's many things that we can learn there, because it's important to always, even if it's a gamified or not gamified system, is how do you connect whatever it is you're learning to how you're going to use it in real life. And as Ahmed was describing previously, the games and gamification design is very, very, very useful when trying to do these kinds of things. So think about it. Think about the possibilities that you can show and how you can connect whatever it is you're teaching, whether it's a math class, whether it's a business class, whatever it is that you're teaching, or if it's some sort of training, how can you connect that to the real life, to the everyday job, or the everyday job they have today, or the everyday job they want to have tomorrow? So that's what I would take away from your experience, Ahmed. Is there anything else you would like to mention?
There was a quick other project too, which was actually very technical course in education too, and it was very technical. People were trying to learn a new tool, and the company was suffering so much from trying to be able to make them learn the new tool quickly, as fluent as possible. And we gamified that experience, and the same exact idea. Although it was a very technical course, we were able to gamify it and send the results of the hook. The same thing was using like the story theme, and having people attached with a story and characters made them realize more, even though it was a technical course. So not only education of like soft skills or pure subjects in schools, but even technicals can be gamified
Yeah,
too.
all these things can be gamified for sure. And Ahmed, the next question that I have for you is if there's any particular process that you follow. Do you have your own process? Do you follow somebody else's process? If you find a situation in which you want to apply gamification, what do? How do you approach it? What's your process?
I use actually a lot of the tools which a lot of the gamification gurus provide.
Okay.
I use diversity of processes. I don't use one. It depends on which type of project am I going through. So if I'm going through a gamification in education, different than digital application services gamification, and through all that, I have come up with my own process, which combines and takeaways from others and build on them. Especially the hook model.
Okay, that's from near AL, right?
Yep, near AL, and some other models like Anna Koppin's model in learning is fantastic, and Monica Cornetti. I use Octalysis from you guys for analysis, gamification analysis mainly, and defining what I need to do in gamification and comparing the results. And I have my own model, which is still not published yet, because I'm going through a lot of intensive testing for the results, and I think it will be published soon enough.
Fantastic.
Yeah, cool.
Is there any sneak peek that you can give us about what your process is?
It's depending on a multiple of ideologies that exist nowadays. It's depending on the hero journey plus the nudging concept, which is actually different than most of what's people are providing now in the gamification industry, because nudging is still new.
Is there any place where we can find more information in the future? I mean, when you have it published, is there anywhere that you're going to show this information?
Yeah, sure. It will be published on my personal website and my company's website, Gampact.
Fantastic.
And once we are done, we will be publishing it when we are 100% sure that this is the final version.
Fantastic. So once we have that information, please let us know, Ahmed, and we will let know the engagers if that's something that you would like to show everybody.
Thank you.
We're now moving to the second part of the interview. And in this one, instead of going for the story and for the narrative that we've been going for, we are looking for actually more tools, tips, and tactics, like short answers, straight to the point. Okay. So my first question is there anything that you would name as a best practice in gamification?
No, I don't see a definitive best practice. I think gamification is about user research, and the best process which I've worked on so far is understanding the objective very carefully and apply user research and intensive user analysis to be able to design the gamification. And in every project, I had to use different processes of design which all inherited from the design thinking model, but with some tweaks to be able to get this done.
Okay, so there actually you have two best practices. One is implementing design thinking into your gamification design, and the other one is user research. So that's a best practice, and I'm sure we can always benefit from that. So
yeah, sure.
User research to get to know your user, which is fundamental whenever you're going to design for somebody, is to understand who that somebody is. So fantastic. Thank you very much, Ahmed. The next question is a bit geeky. So what's your favorite game?
Okay, I'm a little bit strategic. So my favorite game I would call Age of Empires 2.
Ah, I loved that game. I played it so long when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I kind of miss it.
Yeah. I actually still play it till this day.
Oh, wow. So you have a copy. Actually, I lent my CD-ROM copy to a friend, and every time I think about it, I always think, oh, that friend doesn't even live in the same country as I do. I'll never get that CD back.
Okay. That's so bad for you, man.
Yeah, that's true. The next question is, Ahmed, I don't know if you've been following Professor Game. I hope you have, but it's for sure, it's no obligation at all. But is there anybody that you would like to listen to interviewed here in Professor Game?
You mean in the future, right?
Yes, in the future.
I've heard Monica and Yukai. You have been having a lot of great, amazing people.
Thanks.
Let me think. I think you should have Neriel.
Definitely. The hooked model.
Yep. I think this would be a huge boost for Professor Game. Especially his book is doing an amazing job.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he doesn't call himself a gamification designer. He calls himself more of a behavioral scientist or behavioral designer.
Yep.
And actually, that's I do think it's very similar. Some people have been a bit afraid of the use of the word gamification, but he's been doing some incredible work around what I would call gamification, or whatever you call it. I think it's an amazing guest that I'm sure that we will have. He also, I don't know if you've heard his podcast. He has a podcast around his, he has a blog, and he narrates his own blog posts in the podcast. It's pretty interesting because it's a different way of consuming his content. So I leave it out there for you engagers if you want to listen to that as well. The next question, Ahmed, everybody has like a sweet spot, something that they feel is where they perform at best. So I would like to know, what is your superpower when designing gamification?
Okay. I'll tell you, it's not my opinion, but what my customers and the people around me have been telling me is
user validation.
Yeah, it's more of a user validation. Yeah. So what they have been saying is the connectivity between creativity and the objectives. So I'm not the most creative designer that's there, and I do say that I'm not that creative guy. There is a lot of amazing people doing a lot of creative stuff. But what I've been doing and was amazed by my clients is, how do I get that creativity to link to the objectives and make it meet so that we can achieve the objectives clearly using the gamification design? And so the way I put the mechanics from a psychology perspective, from game designing perspective, gets the user very close to the objectives, and so it gets the results.
Actually, getting the results is the main thing. I mean, you can be creative, super creative, not too creative, but if you don't achieve results, then you're probably not doing the right thing. So that's an amazing superpower to have, for sure, Ahmed. And congratulations for that. If that's something that you're recognized for, well, it's actually a very nice thing. We should all be looking forward to having that connection.
Well, thank you. I got that feedback actually from HP, Hewlett Packard, and Oracle, which was good user validation for me.
So, definitely, that's not a small one.
Yeah.
Fantastic, Ahmed. So the next question is actually a random question picked from the audience, which I am picking right now as we speak. I'm delaying the time here to get the question to come up. And here, okay, this is interesting. This is something different from what we've gotten before. And this is a question from a person in the audience who's interested in starting his or her work in gamification. So what would you tell somebody who's, getting started, who's just been reading a little bit and has been passionate now about the topic and wants to develop himself and maybe become a gamification designer like yourself? What would you tell that person? What would be the first steps that you would take? What's your initial gamification design to create a career in gamification, if that recurring thing is even possible? What do you think about that?
Okay, I'll tell you how I did mine. I think there is a lot of ways to do that, but how I did it. Simply, I started reading randomly about gamification, taking online courses and stuff. But what really made a significant jump and shift is first get very connected and close with gamification communities all around the world. The second thing is learning about game design, because you can't actually do a very good gamification without understanding a little bit fundamentals about game design, which is crucial actually for gamification design. And the third thing is try as much as they can to check success stories from all different types of gamification and try to analyze how did that work? Why did it work? And if it failed, why did it fail? Because what they will learn is great, but they will not be able to practice it until they actually see something that's working, try to duplicate it and understand why it worked or didn't work, and then try to twist it until it works.
That's very, very good advice. So if you're out there and listening to this episode, I hope you are. If you made the question, you're probably looking forward to your answer. That's the recommendation of Ahmed Hossam, and he's definitely one of the top gurus in gamification around the world, as testified by the global Rise leaderboard. He was ranked number 2 recently, and he's always been around. So definitely take that advice to heart. It's always in gamification, it's taking stuff from game design. So definitely understanding game design and using what maybe Yu-Kai Chao would call Core Drive 5, the social connection with other people, connect with other people and discuss around it and breathe the air around gamification. That's a great way to get started. So thank you very much for that answer. And Ahmed, we're reaching the end of the interview. Is there any final quick advice you would like to give to our listeners who have never engaged their learners, especially because most of our audiences are teachers, professors, and people who are in the education arena? Is there any advice you would give them for somebody who's never engaged his or her learners using gamification? What would you give them as maybe an encouragement to get started?
Sure. Well, the Association of Training and Development in USA gave 5 main topics to be the most important topics of learning in the future, in the next 5 years, and one of them was gamification and learning experience design. If you're a teacher or a professor, it's a must now to understand that not only what your students will learn is important, but the how is crucial. We all know that there is amazing ways now over the internet to learn, and the sources of learning are everywhere, but the how to learn is now what makes real impact. And so gamification is one of the most crucial ways to engage your learners into a better way of learning and better cognitive learning, and a way that they can have a better learning experience. And the topic of learning experience is one of the most important nowadays. So you should be very careful about that.
For sure it is. Definitely is. Thank you very much, Ahmed. Take, again, all this advice to heart, engagers, because this is a guy who knows what he's talking about. has engaged before in projects of gamification in education. So, he knows one or two things. So you can completely trust what he's saying. And if it's your path, go ahead and go for it. Ahmed, can you tell us how can we connect with you? And then we'll say game over.
Yeah, sure. So you can connect with me on my personal website, ahossam.com, and my company's website, gampact.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook. I've shared my links with you.
Sure.
And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that anybody can send. And if there's any way I can help you, I'll definitely be there. You can just ping me and I'll answer with all my guts.
Wow, thank you. Thank you very much for that. That's amazing. So thank you very much, Ahmed, for participating today, for engaging with our engagers. And we will say now, game over.
Thank you, man. It's been great pleasure.
Hey, engagers, thank you for listening to Professor Game Podcast. If you want more interviews with incredible guests like Ahmed and lots of awesomeness from Professor Game, then go to professorgame.com/subscribe and get started into our email list. That way, we can be in contact and you will be the first to know of any opportunities that Professor Game might have for you. And before you go on to your next mission, would you like to know how Michiel van Ieunen creates his escape rooms? Well, then listen to the next episode of Professor Game. See you there!